Bam.
Good morning, Joe Tolle. How are you, brother?
Good morning. I'm good. Well rested. A little sore from yesterday's mountain bike adventure, but didn't hit the ground. It was a little slick. Just a lot of hill climbing and some good cardio.
That's awesome. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Memorial Day weekend. Uh, while you're watching the show or whatever you're doing over the weekend, remember the fallen heroes of our country and what they've done for us. It's a forgotten about time in our lives when these great heroes went out and did these things for us. I have family members that were in the military. I'm sure a lot of people do, especially in the off-roading industry. So please take a moment, nod your head, and remember them because without them, we wouldn't be here doing this today. That being said, we need to thank Elka Suspension and GBC Tires, the Blunt family, and Slot Canyon Tours for helping us out in bringing you these episodes. Yeah, I told everybody we had a new sponsor coming in. We'll get more into that later on in uh, in our shows and in our advertising. But Joe, thank you for joining me this weekend. I know that you're always busy, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. A lot of racing going on this weekend all over the world. I mean, it's unbelievable if you start looking at the schedule of racing. I know that you're a huge ATV enthusiast, while you also watch Supercross, and I believe you pay attention to outdoor motocross as well.
Oh gosh, I don't know who won yesterday. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
I'm
Maybe.
gonna have to earmuffs because I'm gonna ruin it for you.
All right.
You already know who won.
I know I don't, but I know I would put my money on Jet.
Okay, who do you think got second? You're
Oh,
wrong.
oh,
You're
okay.
wrong.
Hang on. I'm just gonna guess. Let's see. I got nothing.
Let's just put it this way: he's not from around here.
Oh, what's
He comes from an island country.
go for it. Go for it.
Under his brother got second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty awesome. And Saxon was third.
Honda won too, and they just launched new
One,
bikes.
two, three, 1, 2, and 4.
Wow. I watched a thing yesterday from Motocross Action because I've been talking about dirt bikes with Honda lately, which we may go further into, maybe not. But yeah, so I was like, let's start learning a little, let's start catching back up on dirt bikes a little bit, see what's coming on. I saw they had a 2025 thing with MXA with some Honda guys. And yeah, they were saying like they want the 80s back. They want Honda to be back where they were in the 80s when they were just winning it all. Which I was a fan of that era. So um, they won't give us a TRX 450R, but they do give us some great dirt bikes. I can't argue with that.
Right. Yeah, you can't. Well, if they wanted to come back and dominate like they did, they would do a new version ATV, as well as all of the other stuff that they are known for. They got to bring the quality back up and just dominate with great product. You know, I don't necessarily see them doing all of that. They may be just a flash in the pan, win a couple of titles in motocross, get the sales up, and then go back into retirement again, making great stuff. But we'll see how it goes. But back to the racing all over the world. You have MotoGP this weekend. You have F1 this weekend. In the Indy 500, the Coca-Cola 600, and then all of your local series that are going off that you can see on social media that are having races all over across the country. There's some side hack stuff going on in Europe. I mean, there's just a lot of racing going on this weekend around the world. It's pretty amazing stuff.
Well, here in the States, we got a 3-day weekend. So you've got Saturday or Sunday to race and Monday to wash bikes. So it's a great weekend for racing.
Oh, anything that you want to do, barbecuing with the family, spending time. It's a blessing. And like I said earlier in the beginning of the show, you need to reach back and thank those fallen heroes that have given us that opportunity. Now we've talked a little bit about racing and some of the cool stuff. Are you going to watch any of the car stuff, Indy, NASCAR, anything like that?
I don't know how long I'll sit there and stare at it. I think I'm probably, even though I know how the motocross turned out, I'll probably spend a lot of the afternoon watching that. I've got a my nephew and I watch wrestling together a lot, so we got a pay-per-view tonight. We're probably gonna watch. I'll probably watch a quad, catch up on motocross from yesterday, and watch some staged fighting this evening. So
Hey, as long as it's entertaining, bro, who's to cap on it, right?
it's my opinion.
Right on. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the start and finish of Indy and the start and finish of probably the Coca-Cola 600. The in between stuff, I have so many things going on that I just don't have time. Uh,
You know, I wondered as a kid because I watched a lot of Indy car races as a young guy coming up before they split kart and champ car or whatever it was. They tried to split it into two series, and it kind of lost momentum when they did that, and I kind of lost interest in it. Um, but I used to wonder as a kid, like, what's faster, an F1 car or an Indy car? Because they look so similar. There's a Anyone who's curious, look up a video on YouTube, Indy car versus F1 car. I watched a video a year or two ago that does a good breakdown of what the difference is in weight, horsepower, things like that. In case somebody else out there is kind of curious, it's I wonder how those two cars would stack up on a track. I'm not giving anything away. Look it up if you're interested. I found it interesting.
right. I think it is interesting, and I think I remember who won, but I'm not gonna say either. You know that that's always interesting. You see a lot of the MotoGP guys want to jump into Indy cars and stuff like that. I think that's kind of cool when they start talking about it. Um, you know, the comparison between the MotoGP bikes and driving an F1 car. Um, it's pretty cool stuff. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of ATV talk. There's coming a new video from ATV On Demand. Uh, we already released our Raptor video, which they're not even the same thing, but you actually let me preview that video. And for anybody that's one of your members that's going to get to see it tomorrow because you're going to release it to them, hey, just want to took the thunder out of you. I just wanted to steal your thunder right there. Um, they're really going to enjoy this video, and for your other people that are going to get it later when it finally releases, I really liked the way you put that video together. It one of the enjoyable videos that you've done.
I think so. I like to be right. I don't like to be wrong, and I felt some vindication from this. And we've talked about it, so this isn't new. We talked about it last week or week before. We went to the Hoosier GNCC. Um, your video on your Raptor was a full-on Duncan monster dream build. I was heavily drooling in it, and I saw those roll design A arms on your quad, and I'm just, man, those things look like pictures didn't do them justice. But when I saw them on your video on the front of the bike, I'm like, man, those things are beefy, like they're gnarly. Um, they just a picture on a web page doesn't do the construction of those things justice. But you could really see in the video how well they're built, and just how beefy they are. But it's roll design, so you expect it to be good, right?
Right.
But your bike was a dream build. Our bike was the bare minimum to be legal and hopefully survive the race. We did it. We led for a short time in our class. And if your bike is fast enough to lead the race, it is fast enough to win the race. We made a couple key setup mistakes with, one part selection, two suspension setup, because the weather came in and, we set our bike up for a rider and a bike. And when we stacked another 70 pounds of mud on it, that changes things. So, a key bit of, and we went to learn, we were like, this may or may not be our only race with this bike. The final determination as to whether or not we're going to build it into a monster and go back and try to take a win. That's still kind of up in the air. I feel like we proved our point. We could prove it more. But we proved that thing can run up front. I've had pros tell me you can't race them. Well, if you can lead a B class and you've got the setup to get you to the finish without getting hung up in the ruts, you can win. And I feel like we proved that. So with almost no modification, just a few things. We had some GBC tires on there because we wanted grip. And we know they have lots of championships with the Groundbuster 3s and their XC Masters. So, we at least had to have tires, a couple other little things, had to have a precision stabilizer because I don't like to even ride a sport quad without a stabilizer. So we slapped a precision on there, a couple other little items, and we went out. We had a good time, and we proved that bike can run up front nationally at a B level with zero motor work, zero suspension work. Spend all the money you want. We didn't spend much, and we got it to the front for a while. So I feel really good about that. And I'm not always right about everything, but feels good when you prove a point on something you believe strongly. So yeah, I gotta say I got my jollies off on that one. Johnny Gallo, call me back. We got to talk.
Johnny Galler. Yeah, I've been trying to reach out for him for a couple of years, but I think that machine's great. Johnny said he was going to race a few races. Are you going to change a couple things on that and put Johnny on that bike?
Oh no, he's too short.
Not even going to go there. Wasn't me, Johnny. That was all Joe. That was all Joe. You know.
You that bike, and that's the thing. Like and I'm only joking. Johnny, of course, would probably smoke. He'd have probably won on that bike we had, no problem. With the level of experience he's got, he's been giving me a little grief. I've been giving him a little grief. He says ATV on demand should change its name to ATV demanding, and yeah, Johnny's a lot of fun. So don't take anything I'm saying about him seriously. No one needs to reach out and be like, Joe from ATV On Demand is talking shit. No, I'm just playing. So, but that bike, because it does have a little higher center of gravity, I talked to Corey Ellis about this before we did it. And he kind of said, the Raptor will best suit a taller rider or a slightly heavier rider, just so you have a little bit more leverage over the bike because it's a little taller. So it's a big guy bike. If you're 6 feet or better and, you're close to that 200-pound mark, it's going to do better than it would if you're, say, 5'6", 160 pounds. Not that you couldn't do well with it, but, it's about finding the right bike and the right setup for you, not the same exact setup that everybody else has.
We also hardly ever talk about the recreational uses for that machine and the different variety of riders that could ride it. I have a good friend of mine who his wife struggles on the two-stroke, even though she loves it. And a 700's coming their way. And I really believe that he's going to gain years in the dunes on ATVs with his wife because she can ride the built 450s and loves them, but always looking for a little bit more plusher ride. And I think that Raptor set up with the correct suspension out in the dunes will be a lot of fun for her. She'll just click it into third gear and never have to shift, never have to clutch, and just ride through the dunes and have a great time. And I believe that so many people don't understand how versatile that 700 is.
My rider Evan, I sent the bike home with him after we did our first test. It needed an oil change and some other things, and I was just like, hey Evan, we changed the oil in this thing for me. Here, I'll throw you some loot. He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. I was like, and Evan's one of my most trusted guys, and I wouldn't do this with a lot of other brands or probably any other riders, but Evan's a good Christian guy. He's very upstanding, very honest. So I just said, hey, take it for a spin. I know you won't tear it up. He called me and he's like, man, I think this stock Raptor. Now this doesn't mean we drag raced it, but this was just seat of the pants. He's calling me up and he's like, man, I think this stock Raptor stock pipe is faster than my piped YFZ with a vortex. That's all his bike has, is just, stock intake, pipe, vortex. And he thinks the Raptor feels faster, which it may or may not be faster in a flat straight. We didn't drag race a stock Raptor versus a piped vortex equipped 450, but the torque, and that's the thing, is you can make a 450 gain all kinds of horsepower, gain more RPM, but you can't make it lug and generate that type of horsepower. So he's calling me up, going, man, this thing is fast. And it was just showroom, just the way we tested it for our stock 2024 test. And it was cool because I'll even kind of go a little into the race. Again, like, we'll drop that video on our race tomorrow for channel members, which, it's like, hey, you give us $5 a month, you're a channel member, we'll give you early access to our videos a week or two early. Got to make a living. But, one thing we saw with that bike is, most of the guys on our row had a 24-volt starting system. So they're started in gear, clutch pulled in. It can spin the motor over, no problem. We've just got a stock battery and stock starting everything, no tricks. So we had to start in neutral with the clutch pulled in to get the bike to fire fast, grab second gear and go. So he had that additional time of letting the bike spin up, shifting it into second and going. And on that start straightaway, which was just cake batter, it rained the night before, it rained the night of, it rained the morning before we raced. You couldn't have gotten any more water into the soil. It was just laying on top of the soil in the field. It's pretty funny. There's a video of a kid walking his e-bike across the starting line that I caught, and the back wheel was so caked up with mud, it wouldn't even roll. He's like dragging this bike through the starting area because with so much mud caked on the back. But Evan grabs third gear, and that bike, it's so tractable because it doesn't rev quite as fast, but it has so much torque. When he grabbed third gear, unintentionally, that front end is coming off the ground and floating in cake batter just because it can find traction better than a 450, period. It's an advantage of that bike, especially in that environment. So yeah, I mean, for a dune bike, for a woods bike, we all like to uncork them and make them faster, but it's like, it's an option. That bike just runs well out of the box. It's got a little tiny bit of low end hesitation. I know that the YFZs are notorious for having a little bit of off idle bog, they call it, Yama bog, I've heard it called. The Raptor doesn't suffer from that nearly as much. So, like you were saying, he could do suspension for his wife for the dunes, and he could hop up the motor too if he thinks she needs it. we've been to numerous press events with Yamaha. They'll take us to the Oregon Dunes, which, you know, God spent some time on that place because it's so gorgeous. And, you know, we're shooting up big, steep hills through the pine trees in the forest there. No problem. No pipes, no nothing. Like it's a dooner out of the box. So, and it's a great woods bike because it's tractable. It's forgiving of mistakes. Oh, I'm in the wrong gear. Okay, just more throttle. No problem. It'll pull it. I love that bike. And that's why I own one. So
Yeah, I think that it's super, super, super versatile, and so many different people can do so many different things with them. We will see a race version of that for the desert at some point, I think sooner than later. Um, I wanted to transition into another topic that you and I talk racing all the time, and I wanted to understand your version of, the the flags and what they're used for. I didn't hit you with this pre because I wanted to hit you cold so that I would get a better understanding of your version of, like a yellow flag. Basically, what's that yellow flag for?
I mean, yellow flag. Obviously, you know, yellow flag is caution. You got a down rider somewhere. You know, it's not saying don't jump the jumps. It's just saying use caution. You know, if you see, at least I know from pro racing, you see a red cross flag. That means there's a rider on the ground on the track. You don't jump through that section. Obviously, white flag, last lap. Checkered flag, you're done. Black flag, you're done. You're off the, race isn't done, but you're done. Get off the track.
Well,
Um,
okay, if you're going to mention the black flag, what specifically could draw a black flag in your knowledge?
okay, I have raced. I'm not a racer. Um, but I've watched a lot of racing, and typically if you see a black flag fly, it's usually either dirty driving or the vehicle is disintegrating to the point, it's coming apart to the point that it's becoming a danger to other people. So usually whether it's almost always thrown anytime I have ever seen it because someone's in danger. There's risk. Oh, my coffee fairy's showing up. That's so wonderful. Thank you. Um,
So basically what you're saying is a safety issue.
it's usually I've only ever seen anyone black flagged in a race over a safety issue.
So never a course infraction would cause somebody, in your view, in your history of it, would cause somebody to get a black flag infraction.
I don't recall ever seeing a black flag flown over a course infraction. I'm sure that somebody else may have seen it at some time in racing, but in all the years of watching Speed World on ESPN and Speed Channel and yeah, I've never seen anyone black flag for anything other than a safety issue.
Right. And, I've watched car racing and motorcycle racing. I've been involved in racing my whole life. I've almost never seen the black flag flown on any race. You watch Supercross and there's a guy taking out this guy or that guy, and they don't even get the black flag.
Right. They get a fine.
Yeah, it's always done after the race is over, and then the penalties are given. Um, yeah, it's just there was an incident in one of the racing series that was a black flag was flown, and I think it was just utterly disgusting the way it was done. But I just wanted to get your opinion on it. There will be people that watch this video that know exactly what infraction I'm talking about. You do as well. The safety flag, the medical flag, is one that you can be disqualified for if
Right.
you ignore it.
Right. You don't jump on a safety flag. You don't jump on a red cross flag. Otherwise, yeah. And I don't even know then if they completely disqualify you or if they just dock you positions. I don't know exactly what the
So
uh,
in Supercross a couple years ago, there was a controversy because a rider jumped, so he didn't see the flag, but he was also passing at the same time, and he was docked some positions, and it affected the title. I don't. It's been quite a few years, but yeah, I remember that, and yeah, that flag comes out, you better pay attention because you don't. I think that one's pretty um, scary, anyways. Because if you see the medical flag come out, somebody's injured, and you need to take care. You don't want anybody going down because they're injured. I brought that up just to get another professional opinion of the flags and their usages. Everybody knows what the checkered flag is. Everybody knows the white flag is the one lap to go. The green flag is go. Um, have you ever seen the blue flag with the yellow stripe?
I saw blue flag at cross country a couple weeks ago. I don't know what it means,
Oh,
but
faster riders are coming through.
oh, okay. Well, this was on the start, so there was, he was holding up a blue flag. I didn't know if that meant shut your engines off and get ready to go, or what that signifies. That was the second or third cross country race I've ever attended, and the first one I was really invested in. So,
I don't know what that might be, a get ready, or they use it as a couple minutes to go flag or something like that. Not sure about that one at all. So we have some controversy stuff that's going on in the industry, and that's why this was brought up. We're not going to get too deep into the woods. Maybe on another show after some stories are published about it. But I just wanted to get some professional intake on what these flags are for. Um, Joe, you have more experience with this than I do. We have had some in the past where manufacturers have given us machines to test and build for magazine articles and things like this. You deal with manufacturers where they want you to test their machines and make videos and promote them. We had the same efforts back when we were doing it more often. It was relatively known that if something happened to that machine, it was being ridden to prove how durable it was. So they didn't care. I mean, they were going to get rid of the machine or crush the machine when it was given back anyway. So it didn't matter. Um, why, in your opinion, do you think the manufacturers are trying to make it so difficult to promote their product nowadays?
um, well, let's think about how to say this. I don't,
I love putting you on the spot.
no, it's fine. I just like to choose my words carefully. I think what's going on is if we go back in history, like right before the time I came into the industry as a journalist at ATV Scene, things were already starting to shift from, believe me, I've thought about this a lot over the last week because I got a bill from a manufacturer, and that's why we're talking about it. And yes, the way that Polaris is behaving is going to make it difficult for the endemic media in this industry to continue to do our jobs. Um, and a lot of it is times are changing. The industry publications on who are loaned these vehicles are changing. The price of the vehicles are changing, and management at these companies are changing. So you have a lot of things in play that are evolving. If you go back to the 80s and early mid 90s, you basically had one or two publications that ruled the world. Now I'll just say that it's pretty known that historically back in those times, the 80s and the early mid 90s, you would have, you know, print publications handed bikes that would have them for an entire year. And those bikes were often turned in trashed, just beat. Now, look at today
Well,
with
not to stop you, hold your thought. Yes, but the stories that they got out of those bikes, they would get, 6 to 8 stories out of that machine, whether it had been raced, whether it had been multiple time raced, or the magazine loaned it to this manufacturer to do something, and then they or aftermarket company, and they loaned it to that aftermarket company. So they got full circle usages. And yes, the magazine guys did take them on their personal trips. So there was a lot of that. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Those machines did get well used.
Point. That's actually where I was going with it is,
okay,
if you look at the dirt bike publications today, because dirt bikes are extremely competitive. Most of the ones that you see tested online, you don't have a lot of people testing trail bikes. You have a lot of people testing the performance competition machines. And, Motocross Action is a perfect example of this. Motocross Action gets these competition machines. They assign them to guys and this is what I've learned from watching their videos and reading their publication, not what I've been told directly, but they kind of assign these machines to different editors. And those editors will go race those machines a number of races throughout the year as part of their testing. They'll do an initial test, they'll do a shootout. Like you said, a lot of times they'll put performance parts on them. They'll work with aftermarket companies. They get those units for a full-on year. And that's the way it traditionally was in power sports. That's the way it was in power sports for the first half of my career in the industry. We would get loans on bikes for like a minimum of 6 months, usually a full-on 12-month loaner. And that's so we could do like we did with the Raptor, because Yamaha's still old school. We did a stock test on the Raptor. We have gone out and we've raced the Raptor. I told Yamaha we were going to go race this thing. They're like, oh, really? You're going to go race it? Cool. Like Yamaha loved it. And that helps us sell more units. That helps us show people it's not just a play bike. You can race it. It increases the interest in it. It shows the diversity and what it's capable of doing. Bottom line, it helps us sell more bikes, which is what they want. So we do it. But now I'm going to kind of defend the manufacturers to a degree. And, back in the 80s, 90s, when you had 2, 3 ATV print publications, that was the way that these manufacturers would get their products in front of the general consumer. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, the publications abused the manufacturers, but I'm not going to say that they didn't, because I wasn't there. I'm going to assume it's a little bit of both, like they were just racing them and doing their job. And maybe they were kind of taking advantage of the manufacturers a little bit, because let's face it, you wanted to reach the general consumer. You were going to reach them through a print magazine. By the time you move forward into the 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, I came into the sport professionally in 2003, 2004, my bad, 20-year anniversary. Now you have a bunch of online publications that are starting to take away a little bit of that power from the print magazines and sort of spread it out a little bit. And then, and I started a website first. Our videos didn't even go on YouTube for the first 5-6 years that ATV On Demand was a publication. I kept them all on my website because it's like, hey, I need you to see my banner ads from my advertisers. We have to make money to do this. This is a job. This is not a hobby. This is not a game. Anyone who thinks it's just all glory, you are welcome to come to my house today. I will be spending 5 hours washing a Renegade when we're done here today. If you think this is a dream, it is, but it's not all a dream. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of pain in the ass. In addition
One
to
nightmare at a time.
what's that?
One nightmare at a time.
Right, but then good times too, like this Raptor test that we did. So, but anyway, you start moving into the websites. Now you've got more publications you're handing vehicles to. You're spreading it out to more people. You're incurring more risks. So now I'm kind of looking at it from the manufacturer's standpoint to a degree. Fast forward another 10 years. We're at 2008, 2010. YouTube is booming. GoPros are out. We got our first GoPro, I think, that we were ever given by GoPro back in 2009 at the YFZ 450R first press ride at LACR Raceway. I think that's the first time we ever got a GoPro. And, now you move to 2010, everybody's starting to move to YouTube. GoPros are a thing. A good video camera didn't cost you $1,500, $2,500, $5,000. You could buy these little pocket cameras. Cell phone cameras were getting better. Now you have entire YouTube channels that are using nothing but GoPros and cell phones. Like, we're not one of them. We still use a little higher dollar camera equipment, but that's what we have to do to stay ahead of the curve. But with the arrival of YouTube and the influencer with their GoPro, now you've got every guy with a fishing channel and a hot girlfriend that he's willing to slap on a thumbnail with her cleavage sticking out just for clickbait. They're reaching out to these companies and they're like, hey, can we test your new $50,000 side-by-side? That's another thing too. So you've gone from 4 media in the ATV space to, let's say, a half dozen media in the ATV space with websites, to say a dozen media, to now with YouTube. Everybody with a YouTube channel and a cell phone thinks they're a publication, thinks they're an influencer, thinks they know something, thinks they have history. So they reach out to these companies and they're like, hey, we got a fishing channel and we get all kinds of views. Yeah, you put your hot girlfriend on every thumbnail. Yeah, why don't we ever see her half undressed in your video, just on your thumbnail? It's called clickbait. So then these manufacturers start to irresponsibly send these units, which have gone from, now remember, we've seen how the media space has grown and how you have all these influencers now. Now you have dozens and dozens and dozens of people with YouTube channels that think that they're special, that didn't come up in a publication, that didn't learn about responsibility to the industry. You wear helmets, you wear gear, you follow all the safety protocol. You don't just loan these bikes out to your friends. All the things that we knew in media, they don't know. Well, parallel with the increase in number of publications, influencers, you have a dramatic increase in the cost of a machine. When I first started really reading publications back in 1989, 1990, I'm reading, Motocross Action Shootout. A brand new CR250 is $3,999. The first ATV test I ever bought that made me fall in love with ATVs, the test of the 1990 Blaster. The Blaster in 1990 was $2,399. You could buy a KDX 200 in 1990 for $3,299. So these things were pretty affordable. Like, a kid could actually work a summer and buy these vehicles. Now, as we've had this dramatic increase in the number of publications that these manufacturers want to loan these things to, we know as an ATV podcast, manufacturers have kind of turned their back on a lot of the ATV segment because side-by-sides cost as much as cars. And they want to sell more of these cars. Well, these cars now cost $50,000 for top-of-the-line vehicles. 50 grand.
There's
That's
no,
a
there's just no justification for that high of a price because it doesn't, they don't have the same materials in that UTV that they do in the car. Their production quantities might justify a higher price, but these guys are just gouging the industry. Go back
well,
to your point.
I'm they do these $50,000 machines, and I can't say they're worth it or not. I can't afford them. I test them. I cannot afford them. If you're buying a $50,000 toy, as an
God
example,
bless you. God bless you.
as an example, in 1985, median household income was $24,000 a year, 24, 25 grand. Don't remember the exact number. The LT250 quad racer was $2,399. That was like, it was the exact number from what I remember was a quad racer cost 9.6% of the median household income in the United States, which meant for about 10% of what an average family would make in a year, you could go buy a top of the line off-road toy. Well, by those same standards today, your guy buying that $50,000 side by side would be making $500,000 a year. Am I missing them?
Yeah, wages haven't went up that much.
Right. But the average person that's buying them does not make $500,000 a year. I certainly don't. Far from it.
Don't they finance those things for like 8 to 10 years too?
What's that?
Don't they finance some of that stuff for 8 to 10 years?
My local Polaris dealer told me that they can finance up to 96 months.
Really? That's a long time. That's a
Yeah,
long.
that's a long time.
And that thing could be darn worn out and in the junk heap in 48 months.
So we went from a time when these vehicles were very affordable, getting loaned out to a couple publications that probably primarily were just doing their due diligence and testing them hard and building them and racing them, doing what Motocross Action does with the dirt bikes. And all those dirt bike manufacturers get it, know it, understand it. Now we have a huge pool of people that are contacting these companies to borrow. The power sports industry is so competitive now, Greed, that they want to loan them out to, like I said, every guy with a cute girlfriend to slap on a thumbnail, or any I won't say publication because publications are responsible. Any influencer who will go out and break every rule that's stickered on that car because it gets views, even though we won't do it because we don't want to live the three-wheeler debacle all over again from irresponsible people doing irresponsible things. So we follow the rules, which hurt us because we don't go out and do donuts on public roads and side-by-sides with no helmets on. We won't do it. We follow the rules. So now we've gone from a handful of publications testing affordable off-road vehicles to dozens and dozens and dozens of YouTube channels that feel entitled to test, $20,000 ATVs, $50,000 side-by-sides, and they're just handing them out. So what's changed is now with a couple of manufacturers will make you sign an agreement that if you do anything to their vehicle beyond normal wear and tear, which in their mind are boot scuffs, minor abrasions from, trees rubbing on the fenders. If you do any damage beyond that, bend anything, break anything, they're giving you a bill. They're giving you a bill. And not only will they give you a bill, like they used to let us take parts and put the parts on it and fix it. They would send us the parts for free. We'd put them on, we turn them in. Now, especially with Polaris, it's shifting into, yeah, it's going to cost this much. If you're going to pay retail for parts and labor, that's between you and the dealer. So it's getting to the point where now that you have us testing under those things, like, mind you, we don't receive financial support from them. We get no advertising revenue from them. This unit we tested, we have produced 8 videos for. We have over 800,000 views for it. We just filmed another video that's probably going to get another 250,000 views. So we're going to have over 1 million views for this vehicle. Polaris themselves have spent $1 million to produce Razor XP videos that have gotten 3-4 million views. Let's call it 4 million views. Well, you have your 4 million view video, you spent $1 million on it. If I get you 100,000, if I get you 1 million views on a unit, then according to my math, I've done $250,000 worth of work for you. But wait, you didn't get opinion for your $1 million that you spent on your promo video. So the thing that we offer beyond their hype videos that they spend $1 million to produce, we're providing professional video quality along with opinion that's been developed over 20 years of testing every four-wheeled vehicle in the industry. You can't pay for that. So now with the onset of now we're going to bill you if you break it, we flipped a Can-Am about 3 years ago. Accident. It was a ride park owner that drove it on his trail he rode every day. He made a mistake. He tipped the vehicle over. I called Can-Am. They said, Joe, hey, you filmed it. You saw it. You were there. You didn't loan it out. You were doing your due diligence for us. We got you, bud. They replaced some body work. They put a new front bumper on it. I never heard a thing about it. I've tested numerous vehicles for them since. Haven't had any mechanical problems. We haven't turned in a vehicle to Big Blue tweaked in 15 years of being in business. It's been 15 years. Bit an A-arm, broke a ball joint, got a bill. And we're told by their fleet managing company, well, whether or not you pay retails between you and the dealer. So how does sorry, go ahead.
So you've spelled out a pretty good argument for your position or for our position, because I think I'm in the same boat as you. I'm not you. I don't do the high volume you do, but I do test occasionally. What do you think the big ramifications are going to be in the future for promoting UTVs and ATVs?
Bad, not good, not good. You know, if you know, this is the thing I've said all along. Well, I'll go with the ramifications and I'll back up. Ramifications are, if you don't financially support us and you have no forgiveness of an accident, we have two choices. We either don't test your vehicle, or we just don't test it like we test your competitors. You know, just our raw footage edit of our last Scrambler S test, my test rider, Evan Hartzell, was chucking that thing into corners on a side-by-side track, sideways at 50 miles an hour. It was dynamic. It was exciting. I guarantee you it sold multiple units. I could go read through the comments and find everyone on every Polaris I've ever tested that said, I bought this machine because of this video. I'd come up with dozens of them. You know, if we can't make they send us the units to make them look exciting and say what their capabilities of performance are. If we can't afford to buy the vehicle, and I get it. If we destroy a vehicle, we insure everything we test. If we destroy something, we might have to pay for it. I kind of accept that a little bit, a little bit. But you get a couple $100 oops, and you're sending the media a bill like, we don't appreciate a darn thing you do. You're just lucky we let you work with us. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. How does it work out for me and the other endemic media that have been doing this for a long time? I can't speak for them, but I'll tell you how I think it's going to go, because it's how it's going to go for us. Guys, when you ride this unit, you go 20 miles an hour. You don't go over 20. I don't care how fast it is. I don't care how capable it is. You're under 20 miles an hour at all times. You're not going to take it up a hill that's over 20% grade. Do not slide it. Do not jump it. Nothing that's going to make a risk. This is a parking lot ride. That is what this is.
Let me ask you this. You've been doing this for a long time. So have I. We've seen a lot of crazy things. And I'll bet in your years of doing this, you have seen problems with factory-built machines and fixed a warranty issue without saying a word to the consumer for the manufacturers.
Give this to me again. Explain this.
So you roll a brand new machine off the truck. They bring it to you. It's delivered. You're going to do a test on it. And 5 minutes into your test, something breaks.
I honestly,
it's fixed. And then, well, so if you haven't seen it, I have. Brand new bike. Failure to a brand new machine. And you have to fix it for them. And then continue your test or continue evaluating it for them. It does happen, and nothing's ever said. That brings me to the next quality. Do you think the quality of these machines that you're getting is going down?
Do I think the quality of the machines is going down? Yes and no. Yes and no. I think that's a tough one. They're becoming more sophisticated, like things that we used to have to deal with problems with, like as gas has gone to crap, carburetor, anything with a carburetor has become a nightmare to have, because you pointed it out to me yourself, like ethanol fuel, anything that's got any ethanol in it just eats up your carburetor. Everybody I know wants to ditch their carburetor equipped machines and go to fuel injected, because they don't have nearly as many problems with crap gas. My own personal bikes, I'm fortunate that I have a gas station near me that sells, 90 octane non-ethanol fuel. That's pretty pure, pretty clean. And I also have access to race fuel nearby. And that's pretty much all I run in my personal bikes is 90 octane non-ethanol if the gas is going to be in there for a short time. If I know I'm going to leave that gas in that tank for a few months, it's going to be race gas, or I won't leave it in there. I'll suck the tank dry, with a whatever thing that pumps the gas out. I'll pump the gas out of the tank and I'll run the motor till it dies. So I think in ways it's gotten better. I think the quality of the suspension has gotten better. The way they ride has gotten better. But then not everything, some of the stuff's offshored. It was the Raptor 250 chassis built as well as the Blaster that was built by Yamaha directly? I don't know. You'd probably have a better idea than me. Okay. TRX 90. TRX 90 is built by Honda in a Honda factory. A lot of the other machines are not built by the OEMs in their factory. They're built by third parties out of Taiwan. Are those bikes as good a build quality as that Honda TRX 90? Kind of doubt it. They probably run good. Are they as good of quality? I guess no. You're probably sacrificing a little bit. but that's the cost that you pay when you're trying to maintain a reasonable price point at a time when inflation is nuts and people's incomes are not increasing at the same rate. So, but with what I think this is going to do to the four-wheeled industry, when you've got the biggest manufacturer in the game telling the media, you know, if you break it, you pay for it. I mean, okay, well, here comes the shootout. Every other manufacturer in the shootout is going to be pushed to the absolute limit of its capability, hauling, towing, lap times in the woods, drag racing, going over obstacles. When you compete in a shootout, you sign that bike off. In my opinion, you're like, they're going to drive it to 100% capability. There's got to be shared risk in what we do in this industry. You know, our riders jump on these machines. It's fun. They get new gear. They're having a great time. They get to ride a machine. They don't have to make a payment on it. They're careful because they know it's a new machine. They know they're not extremely familiar with it. They know they don't have a lot of time on it. And they know before they got on that machine, they were given the very strict 70% of your comfort. Whatever you're comfortable at 100% of your comfort zone, roll it back 30% because we don't want any undue accidents. It's off-roading. Accidents are going to happen. I almost tipped over on my mountain bike yesterday. I might tip over on it today. I tip over on my mountain bike probably 3-4 times a year. Oops, the front end washed out. You know,
Well, just like your ATV, I can't remember riding one and not running into a rock or running into an obstacle, especially if you're, you know, trying to do any type of performance riding, or even when you're out with your buddies, you know, and it's bragging rights. There's obstacles out there. You might even just go through a ditch wrong and you can bend something doing that. For them to do this is ridiculous, in my opinion. All it's going to do is destroy their marketing unless they do it themselves.
yes. Yes. And let me tie this up in a bow and then we can move on. I can understand from their perspective. I want to put myself in their position for a minute. If we were handed bikes every year, and every bike we handed back, or every other bike we handed back damaged, I can understand after 3 or 4 of these things coming in, you know, pretty sequentially, that they're going to be like, hey, bro, you're wadding up our stuff. We need to loan these out to other people. And that's the other thing that I didn't touch on, is that with so many influencers wanting these bikes, this bike that we tweaked, there's one in their loaner pool, one, and they want to make it available to 4 or 5 media outlets in 1 year. So they've got that schedule so tight. As soon as it leaves my hands, it's right in the next guy's hands, because they don't want to grow the loaner fleet to support the amount of people they're loading them out to. So they put more responsibility on us. Bottom line is, they don't want to just work with proven long-standing commodities, you know, publications that have experience, that have a reputation for not destroying product, that are known to produce very in-depth, very high quality, very well thought out, all T's crossed, all I's dotted reviews. They want to loan these to anybody that'll ask for them, just about, that can generate a number, because greed. And they want to then turn around, because when you start handing these off to people that just either are known to trash them, or you don't know anything about them, but you think you can sell a few more side-by-sides than Can-Am that year because you're loaning them out to riskier people, Now you're going back and you're trying to make the endemic media cover your losses because you're loaning these things out like candy. And they're not $4,000 dirt bikes anymore. They're $20,000 quads. They're $50,000 side by sides. You know, pick. You know, if you want to lower your risk, then loan them to proven publications and stop handing them out to just anybody, and then expect your publications to pay for it. If you hand a $50,000 Pro R to a nobody with a hot girlfriend for a thumbnail and they destroy that car on their first test, by all means, make them pay for it. But editors in the power sports industry do not make six figures. They don't. They don't. I know almost every one. I don't know one editor in this industry that's making six figures.
They're struggling.
Right. You're going to see us with the bills when we buy cameras, when our riders risk injury to ride for you. When I hang 4 feet off the trail where your quad's going past at 50 miles an hour, I'm risking my health for you. We have to share. But now if we bump a tree at 10 miles an hour and bend an A-arm in a ball joint, you're going to send me a bill at full retail? Not sustainable. Not sustainable.
I'm not even going to take that on.
So you're not going to get a good test out of us under those conditions. You're never going to win a shootout with us under those conditions. But not because we're going to be biased towards you, because we're never biased. None of these companies give us money. We have no reason to be biased. But because we can't drive your vehicle to its limit, when you're going to send us a bill for it and your competitors aren't. So what can we do? We either test your stuff at 20% of its capability while everybody else tests at 100, or we just don't invite you to the shootout and we just tell the people in the shootout. It's not sustainable. I don't know how this ends, but I know that I am now talking to major Japanese manufacturers about the potential of moving into the two-wheeled segment, because at least they know when they hand you a dirt bike, it's going to get laid down. They know it. They don't even think about it. They know. We just sent out a 50, it's getting laid down. We just sent out a 450, it's definitely getting laid down.
Have you, not to mention a certain manufacturer, have you reached out to CF Moto to see if you can test any of their stuff?
We were invited to CF Moto, who did an event about 6 months ago. Very behind on catching up on things, had a whole lot of bikes come in at once, getting a whole lot of things filmed. CF Moto is very aware of us. We're very aware of them. They have expressed interest in wanting to work with us, and we're very interested in doing it. I would say that almost with 100% certainty, we will be reaching out to CF Moto this year to review some of their vehicles and potentially involve them in some shootouts, because they're coming and they're coming.
I didn't specifically reach out to them. I was thinking, you brought up the motorcycle thing, and I was thinking, hey, they got some dirt bikes. They got some different motorcycles. You know, I just was wondering if you had reached out to them for that purpose as well. Joe, as always, the last two topics that we had are kind of controversial, and I'm never shying away from it. I'm always ready for it. You know, I got my shield on. I really don't care what a lot of people think of it. I voice my opinion and I'm not afraid of it. Please reach out to ATV On Demand, UTV On Demand. Tell them what you think of their videos. Subscribe when you can. Subscribe to ATV-TALK. We need your help to grow in the algorithms so that we can bring you guys more videos. We're a sponsor-based show, and our sponsors are helping us a great deal and allowing us to be there. All of your subscriptions are free. All you're doing is helping us grow. You can become a member at ATV On Demand and get exclusive to the video before everyone else. We don't have a program like that, but please share us and subscribe everywhere you can, because it's only going to help our shows and help us bring more tests, bring more ATVs, and bring more stories to you. Joe, in closing, what would you like to tell everybody?
Um, it's what would I like to tell everybody? Don't crash.
Hey, if you didn't get the memo, it says don't crash.
Don't crash.
That's simple, right? Brother, as always, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. Your insights are awesome, and I really appreciate it. Have an amazing Memorial Day weekend, and stay on two wheels on your mountain bike, okay?
If I'm not manual and across the creek, then yeah, then I'll be on one wheel. But other than that, hopefully two.
All right, brother.
As
Thank
long
you
as
again.
as long as I'm not on my face.
That's what I'm shooting for. That's what I'm shooting for. Other than the dog scars, those are mountain bike scars. So um, I never did too well keeping it on two wheels. So I just hope you do a better job than I did.
I go slow. It helps.
I bet you go faster than you think you do. All right, everybody, have an amazing Memorial Day weekend. Make sure you reach out to your loved ones, and think of the military and the first responders that have been there for us throughout the years and have made this country so great. Everybody, God bless, and have an amazing weekend. We'll catch you next week. See you
Amen to
later.
that.